Vegas is the home of big bets, brighter lights, but also where money does business. Join us live from the conference floor as we broadcast from Money 2020 here in Las Vegas. I'm your host, the MF Editor.
And this is the Fuzzy Cow Podcast. Of course, if you follow us or if you don't, we do this show in a few different segments, and we do it in a few different formats. Obviously, we have our studio show, but when we come out and get to visit these wonderful conferences and events and summits, we definitely like to do our man on the street interviews and talk to the people that are making these things happen. And on that accord, I have our wonderful guest from the Money 2020 team, Mickey Tesfaye. Mickey, you want to say hi?
Hey guys, hey everybody. Hey Keisha, thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming. And we'll be chatting about the cryptocurrent, which again is a segment that we do to cover, what's happening the latest in both TradFi, DeFi, and fintech, right? So first, let's just get off into that. Story number one to us from Citibank and Coinbase, where they plan to develop a digital asset payment capabilities for institutional clients. And they believe that this move is going to bring Wall Street closer to on-chain money, point blank period. We kind of already see this in some other places and iterations with JP Morgan and Chase, and other place for liquidity, right, through having that representation and protection by institutional adoption in entities. But the initial work targets fiat pay-ins and payouts for Coinbase's off-ramps. And that is something that frustrates everybody, both on the rails and off, right? So any thoughts about that?
I think, Keisha, as you know, if you walk around the Money 2020 floor in Las Vegas this year, you can see that there's been a tidal wave of change in financial services, right?
Absolutely.
This year, more than ever, I think the stablecoin conversation in particular has ramped up to an incredible level.
Yes.
If your listeners take their minds back to Money 2024 in Las Vegas, it was during our show that the Stripe acquisition of Bridge, at that time, Stripe's biggest outside acquisition of any company, broke.
Yep.
And since then, in about a year, right, the world is completely different with respect to digital assets, with respect to stable coins. And so I think we're seeing just an incredible amount of activity and engagement from institutions, right? We're seeing so many new stablecoin or digital asset products, services being launched by institutions. Western Union just announced on our floor, they announced their move into that space as well. So I think this is really just a continuation of a trend that we've seen just ramp up incredibly over the past few months.
And have been a really great environment to kind of, again, crouch that conversation in, right? And kind of let the industry know what's coming ahead of time in true insider fashion. I mean, also to your point about Money 2020 last year, we had Gary Gensler, right? Mm-hmm. And who had said that he wasn't going to quit early, and not even 6 weeks later, right?
Incredible, right? It's like two different worlds, right?
Absolutely.
We had the former chair of the SEC, Gary Gensler, keynoting, and then this year, actually, our keynote, one of our main keynotes this year was Michael Saylor from MicroStrategy.
Yes.
So that really just reflects the world we're living in, and obviously the institutional excitement for digital assets. I think probably much more than crypto, I think it speaks to kind of upgrading of financial payments infrastructure and payment rails that I think the industry has been pushing for a long time. So this feels like we're moving in that direction at a lot of pace.
Absolutely. And our next story is coming from Stripe and Salesforce, who are integrating the instant checkout system. Of course, retailers are preparing to shift to our conversation, right, and to this new culture, right, and the new face of what is being required and what's being dealt with, and amongst the layman and the client, right. And so obviously, if we're going to take the money, we have to be able to put ourselves in a position to accept it.
Absolutely.
And in that way, Stripe and Salesforce are using or have created Agent Force. It's a commerce platform. It uses Stripe's backend with the payment processing to enable the transactions, and then it uses those artificial intelligence agents provided by Salesforce. They are thinking this is not really agentic as quite, right, but it's definitely certainly next to conversational and trying to have a better model and create a more immersive checkout experience, right? That was something that we spoke about. Listeners will hear later on in the show when we spoke with our guest with the topic of the put your money where your heart is, right, where options and purchasing power based around identity and not just profit and customer segmentation is becoming all the rage, right,
Mm-hmm.
in the focus. So
absolutely.
Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's. I agree with you. I think we're really. The AI story has evolved so rapidly. It's incredible, and this year is probably the first year in a couple of years where AI it remains the biggest topic of conversation on the show floor, but it's not the dominant one. I think, as we already touched on with the digital asset story, that has maybe even pipped the AI story, right? But within the AI conversation at Money 2020, agentic commerce is is the dominant one right now. As we're seeing, go on LinkedIn, go to any news site where you get your information from. Agentic commerce is a big thing. This feels like a real clear starting point for that. It's not, as you said, it's not full agentic capabilities. It sounds more like enabling towards that journey, right? By allowing the kind of conversational AI piece to be integrated seamlessly with the checkout experience from Stripe. At Money 2020, obviously, checkout conversations and conversations around payments are bread and butter. So there's a conversation that's been developing quite nicely. And I'm excited to see how the industry evolves with agentic AI, because there's still quite a lot to figure out.
1,000,000,000%.
And there's a lot of important guardrails that have to be built. Yesterday I was doing a session and the speaker was talking about thinking about like using agentic AI for your wedding as an example, right? And what if your AI agent goes out and purchases $50,000 worth of clown balloons? What do you do? You turn up to your wedding, and it's like, right? So there's a lot of stuff that we still have to figure out, and I think actually being able to integrate some of that conversational AI piece with like the technology that Stripe have within the payment space, I think that sounds like a really neat way to make that journey progress in a useful way, right? We want to make sure that these technologies protect consumers and actually work for consumers rather than do things that are not in consumers' interest.
Well, and we know, just to touch on this before we move on to the next story, at the base of all of this is data and data acquisition, right? But, one of the things that AI kind of promises as a potentiality is not just data for data's sake, right? But data with intentionality and data that creates a more lived-in experience, right? And so though it may seem simple on its face, chatbots are certainly one of the forefathers of AI, right? It's like, agentic AI's great granduncle, right? And they are not super awesome. They have not developed very well at all. So I place a lot of value on going back and rectifying some of those older tools before we started, hopping off into, again, these iterative, types of things. And so I'm excited about what that can mean, but I also too want to just continue to, double down for the audience and just on the truth that Money 2020 really is the space where you will see, it sounds kind of isolated, or it sounds like, oh, this is a new thing, but these will be the dominant conversations over the next 3 quarters, and moving into 2026 and beyond. And so really, really interested to see how that grows and what that leads to other partnerships like that. And then our last story, which I'm actually super kind of excited about. This is my favorite story, I think, from this version of the cryptocurrent, which, by the way, please subscribe to our newsletter online. And you can find also physical copies and download some for yourself if you like to stay up to date with, fintech and DeFi news. But Circle has announced the ARC blockchain, which is very, very interesting. So it is in L1, that's layer 1, which means it is the base operating blockchain ledger, distributed ledger part of this environment that Circle is creating. And what is unique about it, instead of it just being token oriented or even just Circle based, it is bringing together the world's behemoths, essentially, of finance, and creating an integrated intracultural, tokenomic system, an economic system on chain. So we're talking about Visa, Ledger, BlackRock, AWS, Goldman Sachs, and more. It's designed to specifically meet the needs of the developers and companies / enterprises who are hosting economic activity on chain, right? So it's supposed to kind of be that first step out as a institutional bridge, right? Kind of created with them in mind, as opposed to, the cyberpunk builders, what I mean, trying to build for the institutions. It's kind of them, doing it in the adverse, which I think is the most exciting principle besides all the people being involved already. And the launch arrives with a lot of engagement, collaborations. There, again, are more than 100 companies so far down to be on it. And they will continue to, deploy and ask other enterprises to deploy, test, and build. And you can currently do that right now. It is live. But yeah, they calling this the EOS, the Economic Operating System. So again, here we are, right? Like we kind of heard on the culture. I'm sure by this time next year, right, we're going to see booths and speakers who have tech stacks for the EOS. You know what I mean? And we'll start seeing new financial products for that. So super exciting to me, but what do you think about it?
I think the story is actually incredibly fascinating because again, if you kind of take your mind back a few years when we were talking about digital assets and people weren't talking about stable coins as much, people were talking about distributed ledger technology.
Yeah.
Right? That was what the term we were using then. There was probably two kind of core challenges for that technologies to get into mainstream adoption. Right. The first was just a lack of regulatory clarity. There was a kind of piecemeal approach globally. There was countries like China had, all but banned it. And then in other markets, there was no clarity at all. And then the second thing, I think, was actually questions around the infrastructure, the blockchain layers in which these new kind of financial systems would be built on.
Right.
Right? Is Bitcoin, Ethereum, all of these, they were, obviously there's lots of promise around them, but were they actually ready and did they have the capability to offer the services at the scale we're used to with companies like, say, Swift, the Swift network, or the card networks, right? So this L1 story from Circle is fascinating to me because, again, a few months ago, if you remember, Stripe announced Tempo,
yes,
which in itself is another L1
yes.
protocol. So I think this is probably the biggest kind of, to me, testament of the kind of institutional adoption of blockchain and digital assets, because now I think we've gone from these institutions thinking about specific products and use cases, i.e. stablecoins for payouts, for on-ramping and off-ramping, towards actually thinking about a step back and the underlying technology to build entire economic and payment rails on top of it.
Yeah.
And so this is, I think, the most interesting piece, the fact that like now a company like Circle, right, which is the most dominant stablecoin issuer when it comes to the kind of regulated space. I know Tether is incredibly dominant, but it's a different story.
Controversy there, yeah,
it's a different
right.
story, but like Circle, obviously, it's gone public as up 400% since its IPO.
Yep.
And now that it's moving into building a layer one kind of blockchain infrastructure, tells you they're actually focused solely or critically on the enterprise level, and I think that's going to be what you need for mass adoption and mass kind of integration of this payment technology for the future, right? You need that buy-in from the enterprise.
Well, because this is how you get terms like distributed ledger to disappear, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is how you get to a debit card where you don't realize, again, that a thing like a rails, are even things, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is how you get to build the wall that hides, what's happening else. So that's, and that is exciting. I think for me, right, being within the sector, right, there is obviously a ethical type of quandary, conflict going on, right, where it's like, wow, too much adoption, obviously, now you don't no longer have the alternative, or the counterculture to it, right? But the other side of me that is excited about it is, as you stated and seamlessly went into, adoption is based on comprehension, right? If it is focused on being comprehended at the highest levels, then obviously we know that education and everything else is just going to trickle down naturally.
But I think I just want the point I would make too, right, is the cryptocurrency industry as a whole struggled for a really long time because the promise was incredible, but actually the cost of it was too much. My personal opinion is that the cost of it felt like it was far too great, right? Like lots of compliance issues, lots of
fraud, all of this.
Activities
for sure.
going on. And at the end of the day, money is an incredibly, whether we like it or not, money is an incredibly important part of individuals' lives. It's very personal, it's deeply entrenched in everything we do. And so actually having regulatory clarity, having the things to protect consumers so that their money is their money, so that they're not going to end up in a terrible financial situation.
Or make mistakes that they can't come back from.
And have not have the guardrails to protect them. I think that's not something we should be looking forward to at all, right? So I think there's companies like Circle, companies like Coinbase that we touched on at the beginning. You have to give them a huge amount of credit for the fact that where there was there wasn't that push to force themselves to be so compliant, to go above and beyond, to kind of actually make sure that this space was the promises was there without as much of the risks. I think that's a really that's something that we should really congratulate them on.
Yeah.
And I think we're moving into a direction in which the industry as a whole is the crypto side of that industry is learning, I think, an important lesson from TradFi, which is the compliance piece, which is the safety security piece, and I think we shouldn't forget that if we want to make blockchain and these new payment rails as successful as we want them to be.
Yeah, it's a maturation process for sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely. All right, everybody. It's your girl, Keisha Ann, the MFN editor with the Fuzzy Cow podcast, broadcasting live from Viva Las Vegas here at the Money2020 Expo floor. And we have, again, more great guests. I've been so fortunate to be able to explore more with the Money20 team, 2020 team rather, and meet some of the wonderful contributors and contractors and staff that are making all of this happen today. And again, you may have heard Mickey speak about this, that they do represent 4 geographic locations on Earth to kind of really get the pulse of culture from the 4 largest economic markets. So that's Asia, Europe, America, and then they just introduced the Middle East. And so this is really, really exciting. And we do have a head of content here from
Content manager.
Content manager, sorry, thank you. Our content manager here from the Europe app, yes. Donam, I'm sorry.
Donam Nasigadu.
Nasigadu, yes, thank you. And we're going to have that for everybody so that they can say it too as a lower third. But he's going to be speaking to us. He's been working with Money2020, kind of a new addition to the team. So he's, I'm sure, got a lot to share with us in terms of insights and what it's, but we're just going to talk to him and kind of kick it with him about what that has looked like. So to get started, kind of like just give us your background and talk to us about how you got involved with the European arm of Money2020 and like what that has looked like for you.
Sure. So my background is actually mainly on the other side of this. So more in the fintech, regtech space.
Okay.
I spent the last 8+ years working for regtechs, fintechs across the industry, mainly from a content side.
Yeah.
Mainly in the financial crime space, anti-financial crime space. Everyone likes to joke internally at Money2020 that I love fraud.
Yeah.
Because I'm the guy who knows the fraud and financial
the ins
crime
and outs
stuff.
of it, yeah.
I mean, which is a joke that a lot of people said to me in my entire career. It's like, oh yeah, teach me how to launder money. It's like, it's really easy, guys. But it's getting away with it. That makes it slightly harder. So that's been my main thrust for a long time. And then after my last role ended, I was looking at various opportunities, and I got in contact with Money2020, and it's Money2020. Biggest fintech show on the planet.
Yes.
Like I think Mickey said previously.
Yeah.
We're in 4 geographic locations now. So one day it will just be the world.
The whole globe.
We'll have everything. But yeah, Money2020, biggest finance and fintech conference in the world. Why would I not jump on the opportunity? And so I did.
And so when you were looking at like what was happening, right, especially with your past professional experiences, you're kind of looking at and doing, again, the deep insights into finance and the way money is moving across the world, right, and how one sector is affecting other sector and one market is affecting. What was happening at the time that you were looking at Money2020 that you were like, okay, you know what, I think I kind of want to have these conversations with them?
I don't know if there was anything specific that was happening that made me think I need to have the conversation with Money2020.
Mm-hmm.
The fintech industry, finance industry is wild. It's always fascinating. It's one of the few industries in the world where things are always changing.
Yes.
And they're changing for sometimes for reasons outside of our control, right?
Often.
Often, I would say, like, especially when it comes to regulatory change. You can petition governments, you can I advise them, you can do consultations, but you're not the one making the decisions. You're adapting to those decisions. At the same time, the technology industry is bringing incredible things to the fore. AI obviously is the big one that people have been talking about for years, but that AI launched in 2022 completely changed everything. Like, that's now everyone, I would bet every single stand pretty much someone has raised the topic of AI.
Absolutely.
Right? Absolutely, because everyone's talking about AI.
It's the buzzword.
Exactly. So, and that's been the case for a couple of years now in the finance sector. For me, it's more that financial services, has always been a confluence of technological promise meeting financial realities.
Okay.
Right? Because I think it can be hard sometimes to kind of connect the reality of what financial services actually mean to normal people. But
and because it's also so nebulous.
Yeah, exactly. It can feel incredibly nebulous, especially when you're talking from a B2B space. But everything that people do here affects real people.
Yes.
And it affects them in ways that sometimes they can see very clearly, sometimes they can't. and it's incredible because I have family and loved ones who work in care, and they tell me about their days, and I'm like, oh man, okay, how do I follow that? And
Yeah.
but they say to me, I can open my bank faster because of the work that you guys do in the FS service. I'm able to move money, like I'm a child of immigrants, like.
Have more agency.
Yeah, and now like my family is able to send money across the world more easily because of pioneering work done by fintechs, right?
Yeah.
Like you see real change that affects real people. How many industries get to say that?
Yeah.
In the same way, money. This is the conference where money does business.
Yeah.
And money is opportunity.
Right.
And access.
Right.
For everyone.
And speaking about money, opportunity, and access, what's unique about Europe in the United States, as you know, well, the United States is a country, but it's continents, right? And as these centers of economic power, that they are supposed to be, first class, right? Top of the world. However, we know from a cellular level, right, and a very granular level, right, that people are not living within those conditions, and that gap is widening. And in Europe, I'm wondering, have you seen any similarities, from some of the stories that I'm sure you've heard across the water coming out of the American, context of things that felt like, okay, yeah, there's definitely a common trend happening here with the layman in terms of what's needed now for their financial services, what types of technology, or do you think that they're like what's happening in Europe might need a different eye, or a different specificity than some of the things that you've experienced or heard about over in this country?
I can't pick out specific differences that come to mind right off the top of my head, but I think one of the things that I'm hearing a lot of people talking about is unlocking access to finances quicker.
Okay.
So things like being able to access your paycheck a day earlier than usual, right? That's a really common thing. I was talking to a COO recently who was telling me that she's able to now facilitate same-day payouts for creators because their fintech owns the pay-in and the payout journey.
Amazing.
So they know the deposit exists and they can provide access to that.
No more net 30s.
Yeah, exactly. way faster. That's something that I think has existed in the UK for sure.
Okay.
A little earlier than I think in the US, but that's like a common thing. And if you're living paycheck to paycheck,
Yes.
being able to access that money a day earlier is huge.
Yeah.
Because I don't know so much about how it was in the US 5-10 years ago, but payday loan companies used to exist quite frequently in the UK.
Yeah.
And they've really had
Predatory.
I wouldn't say necessarily predatory, but because they facilitated a purpose. But I think the reliance on them has reduced because people are able to now access their money more easily and more rapidly. Because I think there was a lot of time where people were in a situation where I'm getting paid on Friday, rent's due on Thursday,
And I still have to eat.
And I still have to
got to
eat.
get there,
Exactly.
et cetera.
And so I think one of the things that's been huge is facilitating access to money. And I think that's something that's always great. I think most people want to work hard. They want to get paid. They want to have access to their money. I think that's true of 99% of the world. They don't want handouts, and they're not given handouts. What they want is access and facilitation. I think that's something that we really are excelling at as an industry.
That's amazing. What it brings to mind is two kind of thoughts. One about the idea of stability and security, right? And a lot of times that just means consistency. For a person that is living check to check, or is under-resourced or underbanked or unbanked, this idea of money coming and then stopping abruptly because of things like it's run out or there wasn't enough to, where what you see more, I think, in this market right now is this explosion of same-day pay apps. So, like, let's say you work at a Kroger, because, with Uber and things like that, you can do that. Couriers, DoorDash, they'll kind of give you your money on a debit card and you can go. It hasn't been forever that you can work at your shift at Walmart and then literally within the first 72 hours of your employment, get that first 3 days of pay, right? Which, to your point, if you have to buy a uniform, you have to buy shoes. This is how people get into the cycle of robbing Peter to pay Paul, right? Because there's a large gap in paucity, you know what I mean, until the next destination of resource. And so I think it's incredible that we are being more conscientious about that. And it also kind of makes me think about this prevalence now of not payday loans, which do have a predatory context, and they also have like an antiquated context. I think people see like payday loans and pawn shops kind of the same in the country, but now we're seeing layaway and like these afterpay and Klarna situations being used on everyday things like groceries and stuff. And is it the same? And I wonder, is that like that need for consistency and, like you say, that immediate access? It's just,
I mean, one of the amazing things about Affirm providers is that they are what they say they are,
Yeah.
right? They provide you with money, they provide you with credit,
Yeah.
essentially, at 0% interest.
Yeah.
And you're able to pay. You're able to structure you're able to put like financial scaffolding to your life.
Yes.
Because you know you're going to get the money. They know you're going to get the money.
We're all in agreement.
Yeah, exactly. So why should you have to pay a premium on that? That premium is now gone. These companies are hugely profitable.
Yes.
Right? Like,
yes.
Like it's amazing how much they've grown.
Yeah.
And there's huge demand for them because what it allows is people to structure their lives.
Yes.
And that is
golden.
Yeah, exactly. And that's real world impacts that I think everyone appreciates having, right? Like it's something where you can enjoy what you do.
Yeah.
Innately.
Yeah.
What it allows is people to structure their lives.
Yes.
And that is
golden.
Yeah, exactly. And that's real world impacts that I think everyone.
Donham, we are almost at the end of our time, but before we go, is there anything else that you would like to share? What are you most excited about now that you've come to your first American Money 2020? And how can the people get in contact with you?
Sure. So what I'm most excited about, I mean, AI and the promises of AI are phenomenal. I think they're going to be huge. I'm always interested in how these things are regulated and scaffolded and what's being done to protect consumers and businesses. So I'm interested in hearing that. It's been interesting hearing how, a lot of the stablecoin providers are reacting to things like the Genius Act and
Yep.
the Clarity Act coming in.
Yep.
I think we're at a point where there's so much excitement in the space because regulatory issues are being, sorry, not regulatory issues, regulatory solutions are being put in place for the next stage of finance, right?
Yep.
People want to get in touch with me. You can find me on LinkedIn, Donna
Okay.
Sadu. You can contact me through Money2020. My email address is darnam.nursigadu@money2020.
We're going to have that right there for you. Don't worry.
Yeah, you can write that down because I'm pretty sure I'm the only Darnam in the world.
Okay.
So, I mean, you just Google me.
Okay.
It's
confident strong.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. It's your girl, Keisha Ann, the MF and editor, and this is the Fuzzy Cow Podcast, a very, very special edition. We are live, broadcasting here from Money 2020, the place where money does business, as you all know. I'm sure y'all in the house to do some business yourself. And I have with me 3 businessmen, founders, who are doing things a little bit different with the way that money moves. The title of this show is Put Your Money Where Your Heart Is. We will be having a conversation about how people, particularly founders, are creating fintech platforms and environments that galvanize and inspire and encourage people to spend money the ways that they want and do the things that they want to do in their way. So first, let me introduce my guest. Right here, I guess to my right, we have Jason Fitch, co-founder of Better Flip.
Hello.
Right here to my farther left, across the table, we have Robert Luft, founder of Potentia.
Thank you.
And to the right, we have Calvin Allen, co-founder of Better Flip as well.
Hey, thank you.
Yes, thank you guys for being here. So first, I just want to take a little bit more time. I know I just kind of like opened it up and talked about what it was, but I think that it's really, really important because we're seeing a lot of trends and different insights, you know what I mean, in fintech right now, right?
Yes,
and across
absolutely.
the economy. It's a lot of different things happening. But one of the things that I am most encouraged by, I think, and intrigued and compelled by is this idea of people being able to have more control and autonomy, not only over, how their income is coming, but what they're allocating it towards, right? And what they're utilizing. We obviously esports, that's on the rise, that's all over the place, right? We see all different other types of initiatives and things in fintech that are, again, centering identity, you know what I mean, over like segmentation and personalization, over, just pure profit, right? And I think that these are really, really interesting trends. And what I think is unique about you gentlemen is you guys all have companies that you guys have created and are building that are kind of really tapping into that energy. And so that's why I invited you here to speak with me.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and on that note, we're going to get into it. So first up, as I said, we obviously have two companies in the building. We are going to take a little time and speak with the co-founders here of BetterFlip and talk about their platform. Do you guys kind of want to just introduce BetterFlip to us and kind of talk about what it is as a platform and what you created it in response to?
Yeah, absolutely. So BetterFlip, our application is an AI companion tool that is designed to really kind of cater to this generation of online entertainment. What we found was there are no shortage of tools out here that are really kind of commanding wallet share from consumers. But there are not a lot of products out there that speak into the financial health and wellness of those consumers. So we put together a product to help really kind of talk to that generation and to make sure that we are giving them the guardrails to be able to navigate this world where everything is kind of triggering their impulsive decisions.
For sure, for sure. So, as we talk about just the rise of esports betting, kind of that you just spoke about, right? And it signals to you all some of those kind of current consumer and financial culture things that you were talking about. How do you kind of harness that uncertain energy, right? Like, I mean, obviously we're kind of far removed from some of these consumers, right? And customer profiles that we're serving, and creating for. But we're also farther removed as well, right, from a future where we can see what like the outcome of some of these things are, like these trends that we're reacting to. So how do you, build with that in mind?
Well, I mean, I think you're building, because when you're making a product, you always have to have the consumer in mind, right? You want to make sure that you're looking at what it is they're looking to have access to.
Yeah.
But you also want to create literacy. And I think right now when you look at the market, that is a gap there. It's so much access to everything, especially in the gaming space, right? But the literacy portion, and for us it's financial awareness, of course, but I'm just talking about all around literacy is something I feel like is lagging, but we want to definitely fix that.
For sure. And speaking more again to like buyer niche and kind of again that user identity piece, one could argue that with all technological innovation, and particularly in the fintech space, right, the idea of choice is the main concept that we're building around, right?
Yep.
So when we talk about that, moving beyond, how important is, again, really choice in terms of centering that for your customers?
I mean, I think it's everything. At the end of the day, consumers don't want to be told what to do. They want to have the options to be able to do whatever they want. So I think when you're designing and building products, you have to have the consumer's choice in mind. That's one of the things that we're focused on, right? Is how do we build AI tools that really kind of guide the consumer without taking away their freedoms of choice. So
right. And then how do you make it not sycophantic too, right? Like how do you kind of like allow that leeway in there for there to still feel like there's some kind of organic, give and take and exchange?
Because at the end of the day, I mean, the center of it is always around choice. So, with our platform, right, we've gamified the experience. We said, hey, listen, here are some of the consumer behaviors that we want to drive, and let's create, a gamified platform that really gives the consumer the opportunity to say, hey, these are the things that are of interest to me, right? I can get rewarded for, taking part in these things, and also be able to have financial wellness and have financial literacy all kind of built into that product. So it's just it is about choice, right? It's I think the AI tools that are there are meant to be companions, not to be dictators of your time, your behavior.
But to add on to that, right? Because you're doing those different gamifications, we're doing it to drive those behaviors, right? To drive them towards that financial wellness. We always call ourselves sometimes like we want to be the seatbelt of that gaming generation, right? And the reason that works is it's still giving the customer the choice of what car they drive,
right,
what they do with that car. But the seatbelt is mandatory. So you want to make sure that has that type of guardrail there for their safety, and they can kind of, go towards those correct decisions and better decisions financially, but at the same time have freedom of choice to do so.
So I think that's a very interesting concept, because up until now, like this, I guess, and transparently, that inspires this conversation is esports, betting, gambling, right, has always been considered a vice, just like several other verticals, right?
It's part of culture now, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what is the signal, or like what is the trickle down effect of, is it chicken before egg or egg before chicken? Is it payment rails and businesses and corporations and enterprises saying, okay, people have been trying to buy their pornography, they've been trying to buy their, their bedding, they've been trying to buy their, weapons, they've been trying to buy their whatever, right, for a long time, and we now have to cater to this demand?
Yeah.
Or do you think that it's just like the demand isn't going anywhere, and so if these enterprises don't feel that niche, like startups such as yourself will kind of come in and start to innovate that from a grassroots level?
Listen, I think it's a cultural shift.
Yeah.
When we talk about just sports betting, just kind of going down that road, it's embedded into all of our favorite pastimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the ability to watch a sports game without your favorite entertainer telling you that it's time to place a live bet, right?
Yeah.
So they've turned it into something where it's everyday activity, and that's okay, right? I mean, look, it's all about consumer choice, right? Consumers want the option to be able to do whatever it is that they want to do with their money. But at the same time, I think there has to be a responsibility around some of the new companies that come out with technology to say, let's put some bumpers around this, right? Let's create a level of friction between impulsive decisions and help them, become a little bit more intentional.
Or tenable, at least, right?
Right, absolutely. So I think what you're going to start to see is you're going to see a lot of companies, create products around, creating some of these safety nets to say, hey, listen, there's a lot of options out here, right? But, we need the consumers to be healthy in this economy.
Mm-hmm.
If they aren't and they become bankrupt in this economy, then it's going to have a domino effect that's going to, trickle down in a negative way for the entire industry.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's becoming a new normal.
Yeah.
Right? And it's bridging the gap between innovation and protection. And so those are things I know that our company's doing. I know that your company is doing as well. So those are things that we want to make sure that we're tackling in this space. Yeah.
You kind of mentioned gamification,
Mm-hmm.
right? Obviously, you're an AI company, so we have the whole agenetic,
Yeah.
generative insights thing going on as a really big conversational piece right now. Kind of just talk to me about like what current trends in 2025 heading into 2026, right, we're seeing in the e-commerce space and in the digital space, and which ones do you think will stay, and which ones are you guys excited to explore through Better Flip?
Well, I'm going to tell you this. I think gamification, not even just in this industry, gamification is taking over almost every industry.
Mm-hmm.
You're seeing that in every space, from healthcare to, insurance, anything.
Yeah.
They're using gamification. Me and Jason had a conversation before this, which is funny because we were talking about, with our kids, the difference in learning curve that they get when a game is put in front of them, showing them the same things that you're trying to show them.
Yeah.
You're trying to show them the math, you're trying to get them to read. But when you put a game on it and you say, hey, get on this tablet and use ABC Mouse or any of those different type of things, it changes the dynamic totally.
Right.
They want you to get a subscription
Right.
for that model that helps them get, tokens and coins to help them play in that game. But in all that said, their education is going up because they're getting that educational piece. Just, right then and there.
A table full of millennials as myself, we know that, right? Oregon Trail, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Mavis
Oh, yeah.
Beacon. You
Absolutely.
feel what I'm
Yes,
saying? Like, this
absolutely.
is not a new concept
Mm-hmm.
of interfacing, right, with your students and displaying the educational material in an immersive and engaging way. I think that AI is unique as a conversation and as a tool because it kind of puts that freedom into everybody's hand, right? You don't necessarily have to be a developer. You don't necessarily have to be, in a VC, right, or have some funds developed towards this. You can kind of just pick up these things and say,
Hey.
this is what I want to iterate on.
Creativity is the only moat.
Right.
Walking around this conference, I've been here many years, and something that's very different now is the amount of companies that have created tools to say, hey, we're going to take AI and make it an application, right?
Yeah.
To where if you want to build a product, hey, listen, just come over here, give us your creativity, we can help you build it, right? Just talk to it and bring your ideas to life. So, AI is a game changer in that space for sure.
Absolutely. And Calvin, you had mentioned tokens and coins. Obviously, this is a crypto podcast first and foremost. Well, whether it's a bear or a bull, we're crypto news you can trust.
Yep.
I do want to take a moment and shout out the sponsors, Octant, who is bringing us season 2. Thank you, Octant, wherever you are. We appreciate you. And yeah, check them out. They are another app that I can say in my own personal life has definitely, for this company and for many others, been one of those conduits and channels of being able to help people not only, prove things like product market fit and fundraising and stuff and be able to apply that back to their own projects, but this is for me fundamentally also why Web3 is so important, and why, you know, the democracy and, again, autonomy that blockchain provides is important, right? Because we are starting to see a lot of different freedoms come and like push themselves through the ether. And on that note, I would like to change the conversation over just a little bit now to speak more about blockchain and what some of the things are that we have on with that. As I said, I do have in the building Robert Luft, who is the founder of Potentia. He is working on a company right now that is democratizing blockchain mining access in different countries in Africa, such as Ethiopia, Zambia. But I'm gonna let you speak a little bit more about that and talk to me, Robert, about, again, you know, as a fundamental concept, right? Because that's still like a hard hill for a lot of people to kind of understand. So first, like, let's talk about blockchain mining, and let's talk about why democratizing access to that would be important.
Yeah, so Potentia is a platform focused on democratizing Bitcoin mining specifically.
Yep.
And what we think is there's a real opportunity today because Bitcoin's now being talked about in a greater fashion than ever before.
Yep.
And a lot of that is driven by what has happened from the United States government in terms of the support of the industry. So we think it's a real opportunity for not just individuals, but small business institutions to enter the space, and Bitcoin mining serves as a really unique opportunity, not just from the economic impacts of the individual who's mining, but also the economic driver effects it can have to certain economies, and Ethiopia being one of those.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is where this is also like the macro and the micro, right? Well, you look at a platform like BetterFlip, which is kind of like, you know, on the micro capacity, right? Galvanizing and empowering the individual. But this Bitcoin mining, right, and with the opportunity that it provides is, as you just said, it has the capacity and potential and does galvanize nations, you know, and also kind of makes people responsible for some of that, right, through the function of specifically Bitcoin, but the larger premise, right, being the distributed ledger that is blockchain. So what do you think, with this being as important as it is, right, and having all these capacities, what is it that has been like the barrier to entry or like the lack of conversation around people's awareness about that, and why have you found that to be more successful in a developing nation, Ethiopia or Zambia?
Yeah, so I think the biggest barrier is, one, understanding what Bitcoin mining is.
Yeah.
So definitely there's a knowledge gap there. And also it can be quite intimidating because you might think it only requires you to be this big mining facility, have this huge data infrastructure to support you going into mining. So what we think is a real opportunity to, one, bring that closer to home. So what Potentia is doing is we have mining facilities throughout Africa, Ethiopia, and Zambia. We have facilities here in America.
Yep.
So what we are encouraging people to build their own Bitcoin mining operation through the Potentia platform, and them allowing to be able to select what facility they want to mine in. So it could be a way to connect back America to Africa in terms of you want to have impact in Africa, or if from the stability and compliance perspective that America offers. So providing people the optionality of like what track they would like to go. And it's some real benefits in terms of what's happening from like publicly traded companies,
Yeah.
institutions, governments for that matter, who are building out their own Bitcoin treasury strategies, utilizing Bitcoin to support their balance sheet.
Absolutely.
So what we provide is, one, a pathway to be involved in some of the tax depreciation benefits that buying mining equipment represents. And at the same time, you're doing the same thing that corporations, governments are doing.
Yeah.
How can you start building out your own Bitcoin treasury strategy? So as a small business, as a corporation, this is a way to, one, strengthen the balance sheet and also prepare those companies as we go into this new digital future that we're already very part of.
Yeah, and you spoke about, you know, some really great like pathways for infrastructure, right, and just you know, financial longevity on both sides, right, through utilizing Bitcoin mining and just, again, what the premise of mining does. As an individual, though, right, can you speak more about like just some of the personal benefits and how it can be personally empowering, like on a, you know, one-to-one basis?
Yeah, you know, so for example, for myself, you know, I can speak to how exciting it has been to been traveling through Africa, seeing the amount of miners that have chosen Ethiopia as a mining destination to build out their own business models.
Yeah.
And what's been so exciting to see is that, one, seeing the Ethiopian government realize that there's a really unique opportunity that they have to bring in foreign investment, which typically a country like Ethiopia may be overlooked,
Yeah.
and have these miners come in and hire the construction crews, help develop the labor pool to be technicians. So now they are now emerged in this new industry. And also from like a utility perspective, who are now experiencing record profits from
Right.
the customer segment they didn't forecast 5 years ago.
Facts.
And this is now allowing the country itself to really be a example for other African nations to realize if you have energy generation, there is an industry that's willing to come in and support that.
Yes. Yeah, that's really, really dope. I mean, and you are a founder that's charting, unscaled, territory, right, in both TradFi and DeFi, and as an individual as well. So it is very exciting to see that, and I really do love the idea in the work of empowering, the person and making them, again, the most necessary component in terms of their nation's betterment, right, and being able to directly contribute to their nation's, like, allocation of resources, right, and what becomes important conversations and how, it's being sustained long term. So I think that that's really, really powerful, and I really hope that people are like understanding that and tapping in, because that's super, super dope. But talk to me about how your positioning is like more reflective of what you think the singularity between, founders, CEOs, and DeFi. Obviously, again, you spoke a lot about optionality. You spoke a lot about choice, right? And again, even within the mining context, being able to present that. How important in the future do you think it is, kind of to the conversation that we were having with Jason and Calvin, right? Is that going to continue to be, especially in something kind of so unknown still, and untethered as a Bitcoin mining?
In terms of how impactful it's going to be.
How impactful is it going to be, and how important is it going to be for TradFi companies to continue to like follow that model, right, as they seek to work with blockchain companies, right, Web3 companies, and even those within the sector already, like understanding that it can't just be their way, you have to offer people things. How important is that conversation going to be for all fintech industries to start following, do you think?
Yeah, in terms of being able to, one, be at the cutting edge of what's changing in terms of how we look at finance.
Right.
And, finance has been historically a very hard industry to be a part of.
Yes.
And what I think blockchain has done is open it up and democratize it to individuals like ourselves to build out new business models. So what that requires is how innovative are we being in terms of the product offerings we're providing to the market, but also realizing that there's a unique opportunity and a responsibility that if we get to be at the forefront of this merging of blockchain and how transformative it's been to the financial markets, is how is this going to be impactful for those small businesses that's going to help lead out these new product offerings.
Yeah, for sure. And I do just want to take a pause again. We have a little bit of time left, so I am just going to ask everybody again to check out our sponsors. Also, you've heard about BetterFlip, you've heard about Potentia. We will give you all those social handles, and you'll be able to get in contact. We're just about to round up here to the last 10 minutes of our show. We might not take up the whole 10 minutes, but I do just have 2 final questions for you all. First, I would like for everybody to go around the table and tell me, looking forward into the future, right? What are we most excited about? What are we least excited about with fintech? And what are you most ready and eager to see BetterFlip and Potentia contribute to the landscape?
Okay, I'll start.
Yeah.
One thing that has always intrigued me about this industry, whether it's Web3 or traditional finance, specifically in the fintech sector, is how much it democratizes finance and accessibility for everyone. So I'd love to continue to see companies being built not for profit but for purpose. I think that's what has sustainability. When I used to do business development for some of the sponsor banks here in the U.S., I would always tell a company, there are a couple different things that you need to be very successful. One of them, and I think is part of the base foundation, is you have to have a solution that's going to be transformational in nature and have real impact, right? That's how you stick around. So I'm excited to see how people leverage the accessibility of these new tools to create products that are going to change the world. I love what you're doing over at Potentia. That's really cool. And obviously with BetterFlip, our goal is to provide financial awareness and wellness to a generation that is fueling a multi-trillion-dollar industry. right? We want to make sure that the consumers that are putting this thing together, that there are tools that are designed to help them to stay healthy. So very excited about that.
You know, one of the things that's really exciting me is I think the place that we are creatively industry, with the, I would say, lack of a better word, the boom in the AI trend of things, right? Now everybody's trying to say, how do we apply that? And I think we're at a crossroads where it's applications towards AI, fintech as a overall industry, and understanding where those things going to be placed. Is it customer service? Is it going to be the customer experience? Is it going to be B2B? All those things matter. But then it's going to be the access to the customer. Customers have never had this much access, ever.
Yep.
And so with all those variables in play, the creativity of what you can do as business and as consumer is infinite. And I want to see what happens in the next 5, 10, any of those years. We were having a conversation surrounded about even brick and mortars. Something you said something about Home Depot, right? Like, what does that look like in 5 to 10 years?
Facts.
Like, do you just walk into that store, type on a screen, and then all of your products that you want are brought to the front for you without even walking through the aisle. So it's so many things that I want to see in the fintech world.
Yeah.
That I'm really excited to see.
Yeah.
When it comes to the AI models and what those applications are going to bring to the table.
Absolutely.
What I find so fascinating, what I'm so thrilled about, is nation state adoption.
Yes.
And to see that we are now at a place where nation states have to take seriously, for me specifically, Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And how much it can transform their understanding and their own societies, and how it's creating this global connectivity.
Yes.
That I think, as a entrepreneur who is always looking for opportunity, seeing that Bitcoin specifically is able to create a platform for diplomatic conversations, for economic empowerment conversations, and also just the benefits of a new industry that you can hitch your wagon to, so to speak, and build within that and be a part of that rising tide. So, and all of that's predicated upon nation state adoption, and it's happening.
It is. It is. It is. And on that note, will you all please be as kind to tell the people where they can find you, what your social media handles are, and how they can connect with you further?
Yeah. So listen, I use LinkedIn. I know everyone here does. So please find me, Jason Fitch, my CEO of BetterFlip. Shouldn't be hard to find. So definitely look us up. Also, www.betterflip.com. Please join the wait list and see what we're doing. We're very excited to share with you guys.
Same here. Definitely use LinkedIn. Calvin Allen, and that's at BetterFlip as well, CSO and co-founder. And he already gave us the website. So we definitely have the same handles there. So would love for you guys to join the wait list. Take a look at what we're doing. We're going to have a lot of new innovational things that we're going to speak about in the next few months. And we're really excited to really give that to our customers.
Myself as well on LinkedIn, Robert Luft, Luft. And please visit our website, www.potentia.digital. Potentia spelled Potentia.
Thank you. Yes. And everybody, that was episode 4, season 2, live from Money2020 Las Vegas. This is the Fuzzy Cow Podcast. Y'all know who I am, Keisha Ann, the MFN editor, and y'all know where to find me, www.thefzz.io. Please find the Fuzzy Cow Podcast. It's only one on all things social media. We'll be there. I'll be there to greet you and teach you about crypto and other things going on in the fintech and DeFi space. And we hope to come back next year and do it again with you all. This has been amazing. I'd like to say thank you to Money2020 and to Informa and to the wonderful staff here. Been nothing but awesome. And after this, I think we're going to go do some partying.
Okay.
Some eating.
Yeah.
Maybe a little cocktail drinking. I don't know. But got to get out of here. Until next time, we will see you soon. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. That was fun.
It was.